Welcome to Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff, where we interview newsmakers, storytellers, and all-around interesting people. Sit back, relax, unless you're driving, and enjoy the show. Here's Jackson.
Hello. I am Jackson Huff. This is Not in a Huff. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, really appreciate it. This week I am interviewing Morgan Wrublik. Now, this interview was several months ago. You'll kind of find that out in some of the answers she gives. She talks about being a junior and kind of the spring semester. Of course, it is September now, so she's in her senior year. But Morgan is on the track and field team at Illinois State. This interview took place during the time that I was talking to a lot of college athletes. I've kind of dispersed those interviews throughout the last few months. We've talked to soccer players, we've talked to swimmers. I think the soccer players from Iowa, the swimmers from Stanford, and now this track and field person is from Illinois State. Track and field is a diverse area. You'll learn about that in our conversation. Track and field is everything from long distance running to shot put to jumps and hurdles and all this stuff. So it's a huge team. Over 100 people are on her team at Illinois State. She herself is somebody who is a hammer thrower. We'll talk about what that means. The hammer is not, obviously not the one that you find in your cupboard. Different type of thing, but you throw that thing as far as you can and judged on distance. Talk about how she got into that. Growing up, there's not kids are doing ballet and soccer and t-ball, but there's not a lot of people that are throwing hammers and shock puts and stuff like that. So how did she get into that? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about her as kind of a social media influencer. She's kind of growing in that world. Got quite a big TikTok following. Lot of following on Instagram too. We'll talk about what made her want to kind of grow that following and the things she's doing there. We'll talk about just the pressures of being a college athlete. That's kind of a common theme in these interviews because that is a lot of pressure. Professional athletes, of course, they are devoting all their time to their craft. It's their job. College athletes need to devote all their time to their craft, but also they need to devote all of their time to their studies. And how do you manage that? How do you manage the pressure of doing both? How do you manage the pressure of just being in a sport where you're supposed to perform highly? Definitely in a sport like track and field where it is an individual sport. So if something goes wrong, it's on you. It's not something that you can kind of lean on your team with. So we'll talk about those pressures. Morgan is amazing when it comes to dealing with those pressures because she's not in a fluff degree. She is working towards a degree, a pre-med. So definitely busy and excelling in two different areas. So this is a fun one. I think you're going to enjoy this. Here is Morgan Wrublik. I'm here today with Morgan Wrublik. Miss Wrublik, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hardest question of the whole evening. Introduce yourself.
My name is Morgan Wrublik. I'm on the track and field team at Illinois State, and I throw hammer and kind of shot put a little bit. And I'm studying biology with a minor in chemistry, so I love school, and that's basically who I am on paper.
I like it. Yeah, and the loving school part, that's kind of me too, because I actually work in higher education now. I work as an advisor, so that's what I always tell people that I loved college. College was amazing, so I didn't want to ever leave it, and I haven't had to. So that's cool. I want to ask you now. You talked about being on the track and field team. How did you get your start in that? Because I don't feel like most young kids, they're doing soccer, they're doing gymnastics, that kind of stuff. You don't hear a lot of people doing track and field, and definitely like shock put and hammer. So how did you get your start?
I did all the sports as a kid. I was a really competitive cheerleader, gymnastics, a little bit of basketball in there, all of them. But in sixth grade, I was like, you know what? I want to do something different that my mom and dad aren't pushing me towards. So I tried out for the track team. And originally I was really long jump. Like long jump was my thing. Even up until I want to say like junior year of high school. Like I really stuck with long jump, loved long jumping, a little bit of running here and there. And then I had a really big injury my sophomore year, going kind of my junior year. And so the coach was like, you know what? Why don't you try shot put? Like it'll be a little bit easier on it was my Achilles. So like that's it's hard to long jump with bad Achilles. And so I went out for shot put and I had a lot of success there. I mean, decent enough to go D1. And then, I got to college. They're like, we'll give you this much money. And I was like, yeah, okay. Didn't really know what I'd be doing in college because I went from long jump to shot put and then got here and they're like, all right, you're going to do all the throwing events. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. And we're also going to change your technique in shot put. So actually everything you do in college is going to be brand new to you. I was like, okay, awesome. And so, freshman, sophomore year of college, I definitely worked through like all the 4 different events, which is discus, shot put, javelin, and hammer, and also weight throw indoors. So weight and hammer are like the equivalent of each other, indoor and outdoor. And so I did those freshman, sophomore year. And then finally coach was like, yeah, you know what? You're a hammer thrower. And I was like, awesome. Awesome. And now I just kind of stuck with that. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, when you said that you went from doing one thing in high school to doing something quite different in college. So what was that like? Obviously, you had the confidence in high school that you were good enough to go D1 and be successful, but then they completely changed things up. I mean, I feel like that would be so interesting given you're in kind of a sport that has a lot of different disciplines to it. I couldn't imagine a basketball player be like, actually, you're going to be playing volleyball here. It seems kind of interesting. So how did you manage that?
It wasn't anything crazy for me because I went from like high school. I did a lot of things and I won state for cheerleading my junior year. And then my senior year, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out for the basketball team. And then I ended up starting in basketball, not knowing how to play basketball, how to dribble a ball. But I figured it out. And especially with the throws are really technical. So as a freshman, it was kind of like I want to say my ego was very humbled because I had to learn everything from scratch and I was not great at it by any means at first. And just like the really technical aspect of it was really frustrating. But eventually, once it started to click, you learn to love it. And I definitely had to like re-love track, learn how to love it again. And I'm finally figuring that out.
Yeah, I love that. What stage are you at now? What year are you at in college?
I'm a junior.
You're a junior, yeah. And I want to talk because I don't ever assume that the listeners, I have so many different people on. I don't assume that they know about all these different things. So later on, I want you to kind of explain some of these different events that we're talking about. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, you talked about how you did a lot of sports. You said that you started in basketball after, when you hadn't even known how to dribble a ball. That you must be very athletically gifted to be able to do that. But is this you? I guess this is going to be my prime creeping, but I always like to just, before I talk to people, see whether I can find interviews on YouTube, see whether I can find other podcasts, all that kind of stuff. Is there a video of you doing a floor routine in gymnastics, maybe by your mom when you were a kid? Because I did find one with your name on it.
Probably. I mean, there's probably a decent amount of stuff out there.
Yeah.
I also trained a summer with Olympic coaches for Olympic lifting, so there might be a little bit out there for that because I, for a period of time, was seriously gonna pursue that route, but I stuck the track. So yeah, there's probably stuff out there, definitely.
Yeah, you said Olympic lifting. What's that exactly?
So it's not it's an Olympic. It's in the Olympics. It's a clean and jerk and snatch. So like that's Olympic lifting, and then the powerlifting side would be bench, squat, deadlift. So like I hang clean freshman year without really knowing how to do it in college. I hang clean 220, and somehow the Olympic coaches got a glimpse of that, and they're like reaching out to me, and I'm like, all right, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, all of these sports, obviously, it takes different kinds of people and different kinds of strengths. Everything that you seem to be talking about, whether it's the throwing different things, whether it's lifting. I assume that your talents are in like actual strength rather than finesse. Is that safe to say?
Yeah. I'm definitely a very powerful athlete.
Yeah. So I want to ask you now about, you said that you go to Illinois State. What's the recruitment process look like for track and field? I've talked to people in gymnastics and soccer and swimming and all these different things, and everyone's just a little bit different. And obviously every school is a little bit different, but what's it look like to be recruited in this area? When does it start? obviously with gymnasts, they're being recruited at 12 years old sometimes. So what's it look like when it comes to recruiting for collegiate track and field athletes?
For track and field, I want to say like definitely like in for me, it started junior year. I think sophomore year you can get like a little bit of a hint like whether or not you're gonna like do it in college, but junior year is when the numbers really matter and like the coaches will start reaching out to you. And track isn't really like the coaches don't have to go see you perform. It's really like they see the numbers, they see if you're consistent, they see if you're not, and it's all online. So like the coaches really just reach out to you. I had like a recruiting profile, but I mean, half the time I didn't even need that. They would honestly just find your social media, Instagram, you get direct messages from coaches through Instagram, stuff like that, or they'll find your phone number and text you. And it's really just a numbers game. If you have the numbers the coaches are looking for, they'll normally recruit you.
So you said so most of the time they don't even come and see you perform at all?
No, no, not really. Like especially because I'm from Illinois, and so I went to Illinois State. So my coach probably saw me perform at State because it was only like an hour drive from here. But besides that, the coaches don't really like need to see you. Like they'll see videos. You can send them like they're like like a recruiting film, and they'll watch that and kind of get an idea.
That seems really interesting to me because to compare it, obviously swimming is a numbers game too, down to the hundredths of a second with that. But I know that swimming coaches still like to see the swimmers because even if their numbers aren't where they need to be, sometimes you can see that, hey, they're just doing this one thing wrong. There's this small part of their technique that I think we could get them a lot better. Is that not the case here? You said that they kind of changed your technique. So it really doesn't they don't look at this and think, oh, I think they could be better if they did this a little bit better.
So like my coach here, he knew that I was playing other sports and he knew I was athletic. So I don't think he was really worried about the technique. He kind of like was like, all right, I'll kind of mold her however I want. And that's how a lot of the other coaches, like they were kind of like, all right, I see your numbers, I see you're good at all these different things, and I think that I could really work with that. And they didn't care to really see because they knew they were going to change it. And for shot put especially, most people in high school glide, and then once they get to college, they spin. And that's just kind of stereotypical because high schools, there's not a lot of throwing coaches. So it's kind of like, I think they're normally used to it.
I gotcha. I guess I want to ask you, this is a hot topic when it comes to collegiate athletes, and that's just handling the pressures of being a college athlete, being a student, all these type of things. How exactly have you been able to manage that? And do you feel like track and field is a sport that, is as intense when it comes to, the training and the off season, all this kind of stuff? I have no idea. But talk about managing all your expectations.
Yeah, well, so I'm actually pre-med. So like up until now, I've been taking like I'm in a lab 10 hours a week, like crazy busy with school. And then track is also like we have every day's practice, and then we also have weights 3 times a week, and you have to go in the training room and you have to keep track of your injuries and stay on top of that. And then when we travel, it's normally Thursday through Sunday. So you're gone, you miss school. And our season is also basically, I want to say we have a couple meets in December, and then you get back from winter break, and it's January through the end of May. So it's a really long season. You get 2 weeks off in that period of time. And so I'd say like that aspect of it is a little bit more difficult than some of the other sports that only like just spring. But because it's not a team sport, thankfully, like it's more flexible. So like if you have to make class, you leave and you go to class. Whereas like I feel like a lot of my softball friends, they're stuck at softball practice for 4 or 5 hours, where like track doesn't really have that because you don't need the whole team there together to practice.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up a good question. I mean, how do you manage that being completely just up to you, and all the pressures really kind of is on you? Again, with swimming, it all depends on that one athlete and the pressure's there. If they didn't perform, then it's on them. Where with team sports, obviously you can rely on other people, and it's kind of a team success and a team failure. So what's that added pressure just it being completely a solo event?
It's great sometimes and it really sucks sometimes. So I'm not gonna lie. Like definitely like when you're in the ring and you're in the ring alone, there's nothing like coach isn't gonna help you. And if you have a bad meet, it's not like anyone's really there to like bring you up. Whereas in like basketball, if I miss a basket, my team's right there like helping you out. But for track, it's like you do bad and no one else is really going to suffer no one else is going to suffer because you did bad. You just kind of got to deal with it and move on and just take it all in yourself.
Yeah. So how cohesive is a track and field team? Everyone's doing completely different things. Like there's, you're talking about being a strength athlete. There's events in track and field that isn't strength. So I feel like there's so many different personalities on a team like that. Do you feel really connected with your team, or is it more just a very singular thing and you're doing the best you can? And yeah, if the other people do good, that's amazing, but you're not necessarily there rah cheering the entire team on.
I think when it comes down to conference, everyone's all there. All of a sudden, everyone is, we're one team when it comes to conference, but all season really, like the event groups are cliquey. So you have the distance runners that are like all good friends. You have like the throwers are normally all good friends. You got the multis, the jumpers, like everyone kind of has their own niche. And I actually am one of the only few people on the team that really has like friends in each group. Like I really do try and be like hang out with everyone, but overall, like the team is pretty cliquey.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
I got you. And I want, this is the part that I want you to kind of explain some of these events. I don't, there's so many different things. So I don't expect you to explain all of track and field, but definitely your events. Talk about exactly what that is. And I realize it's a little bit hard given that this isn't a video podcast, but in words, kind of explain the events that you do.
Okay, so I'm a hammer thrower. So this is an event that really isn't in not many states allow it in high school. So this is something that you normally figure out how to do in college or summer track or club track, but it's not really like Illinois for high school doesn't have it at all. And so it's you take a ball on a string. It's a 8.8 pound ball on a string and you spin it in circles and then you just turn really fast and chuck it. And it should go far. So that's what hammer is. And then weight indoor is a 20-pound ball on a short string. And it's like really heavy. So you're going to do the same turns and then chuck it. That's the best I can explain it by words. And then javelin is a little more like self-explanatory. Javelin's I want to say spear. Is that what the word is? Dart. Spear. Yeah, spear. Yeah, you take it. It's a long thing. You chuck it and it sticks in the ground. And then shot put is just a ball. And most people spin and chuck it. I'm back to the glide. I basically just hop back and put it. And then discus is like the frisbee.
Yeah. So is it judged on exactly the exact distance it goes, or I feel like that's easy enough. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So especially like for all the events, wherever the ball lands or the discus lands, wherever it lands, that's where you measure from, and that's who wins. You can't scratch. Like there's a ton of rules kind of in it. You can't go over the line, just stuff like that. So you just throw it wherever it lands, they measure it, and that's how you win. You get 3 throws normally in prelims, and then and it's crazy to me because I like a lot of people don't actually know this. Like some of my fellow like people on my team don't even realize, but you get 3 throws in prelims. And then top 9 go to finals. So you'll get another 3 throws in finals.
Gotcha. And you said you can't scratch. So wherever it lands, if you're not throwing it correctly, what if it lands in the stands?
If it lands in the stands, it doesn't count. It has to stay like within lines.
So there is a way if you're bad enough to scratch or be disqualified.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. You don't need to explain the other ones, but talk about other events that are in track and field.
So there's jumps. We have long jump, triple jump, high jump. There's distance, which is going to be anything basically from like an 800 to I think 5K, 10,000. Okay. And then there's multis, the girls do 7 events outdoors and the guys do 10 events outdoors. And those are crazy. It's based on a point system. And then you also got the sprinters, which is 100, 200, 400. Then the throwers. And I don't know and hurdles. But hurdles kind of go with the sprinters, so I don't think about them differently. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So does every sport kind of have their own individual like assistant coach? I just can't imagine, one head coach being able to do all these different things that well. And is every track and field team, different? Is one area where most of the time the head coach is coming from because it's maybe the biggest event. It just seems weird for one person to know that much about all these different things.
No, definitely. So there's actually we have quite a few coaches. Our head coach is a distance coach, but he doesn't I don't even know that he does that much coaching because he has so much responsibilities. But then we have an assistant distance coach. We have my coach, which is the throws coach. We have a jumps coach, a multis coach, and a sprints coach. So it's a pretty big staff, but there's also like 100. Oh, I want to say we have around 100 kids on the team. So it's a pretty big team.
Yeah, that's huge for sure. So you said that you're from Illinois. Why Illinois State? Is it simply because you wanted to stay close from home? That people, that's who reached out to you, or what made you pick? I think it's the Redbirds, right?
Yes, the
Yeah.
Redbirds. Honestly, I had no intention of going here. I got recruited by a lot of cool schools like University of Virginia, one in the MAC conference, Bowling Green, Grand Valley, just like a couple like all like geographically diverse from where I'm from.
Mm.
And my dad said I'd get a car if I went to ISU. No, I'm just kidding. But I love the atmosphere here. It's a great atmosphere and it's very homey. And my roommates are from Canada and Florida. So not everyone here is even from Illinois, which it's just a very at-home feeling. The track team is very competitive and it's a good level of competition where they expect you to compete like you're in a Big Ten and they expect you to compete like we're, one of the top schools, but our conference is very doable to win. Like we're very successful at our D1 level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking around you. I don't assume you're at a dorm now. You said you have roommates. Do you guys rent a place or what? Doesn't look like a dorm room unless
Oh, no,
it's a
no,
really
no.
nice one.
No. I'm in a townhome actually. So I've been out of the dorm since second semester freshman year. I've lived in a townhome and my little community actually, we live next to swimmers and then there's probably like 5 football houses of all our football buddies that live here. I have track teammates that live in the complex right across from us, and it's just like a huge community of basically athletes. And
Oh,
we have
that's
a
cool.
pool, and it's nice and spacious. 2 levels, some 3, but yeah.
No, that's awesome for sure. So I want to ask you now kind of about what a season looks like. We talked about how I think you said it starts in like December and goes all the way to May. First question I have there that I forgot to ask when you mentioned that was, I'm in Indiana. I'm not too far from you, and we have about the same weather. And you said this is outdoor events. Outdoor events in January doesn't sound too fun. So you're outside in January doing this stuff?
So we're not outside in January. So we have 2 meets before winter break, which winter breaks, Christmas through first week of January. And so those are all indoors. So we're indoors, which is slightly different events actually, but we're indoors till end of February. And then we go outdoor beginning of March through the end of May. And so yeah, indoor is just like most tracks haven't or most places have indoor tracks unless you're from the South, which they don't even have indoor seasons most of the time, I don't think. But that's where like I do weight because it doesn't go as far. Whereas the hammer goes, I want to 50 to 60 meters. The weight goes maybe 20. That's a little different.
So is it two totally different like seasons then? Because
yes. We have 2 different conference championships. We have an indoor championship and an outdoor championship.
yeah, I figured as much because the university I work for, they've won like the national championship for indoor track and field a bunch of times, but I don't hear much about outdoors. So I assumed that it was different. So talk about the common injuries. Again, so many different sports in track and field, probably tough, but your exact common injuries, what are things that happen a lot?
For throwers, I want to say there's a lot of shoulder issues. If you're a jav thrower, you're going to hurt your elbow. I personally have found that the throwing honestly is probably the least. I get least injured I've been. You get lower back pain and lat pain from throwing hammer because it's just like weird positions. I guess you get more like overuse from putting your body in like positions that like it naturally shouldn't be in. The weirdest thing I had to go through was indoor. I tore a muscle connecting to my collarbone. And so it affected like everything to do with my collarbone and it moved out of place and all the muscles around there got kind of screwed up and I still can't really lift and still throw well. So it's been like a managing it kind of injury, but it took me out of indoor completely.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all. It sounds kind of painful.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
That was
So
definitely a weird throwing injury though, but that's
yeah.
one you get.
I gotcha. I gotcha. I guess I want to kind of move on to post track and field. You talked about how you're pre med. So I guess this is a good interview question if I was interviewing you for a job type question. But what do you think, this time as an athlete, because it sounds like you want to move into something outside of athletics at some point. What do you think that, the skills that it's taught you, how are you going to translate that to medicine?
That's the one that I've been having to think a lot about. But time management for sure. And I think work ethic, because you have to show up every day whether or not you want to or not. And time management, you get a certain amount of times to do your homework and you got to get it done, or else you're not going to be able to compete. And if you're not getting the grades, you're not going to get to travel. And so that's definitely been a big part. I'd say like teamwork, because you do have to still like associate with people and like be for the good of the team. And I the biggest one the biggest one I'd have to say is probably like leadership. I don't think you need to be team captain on the team in order to like gain a lot of like leadership roles, because even on campus people look up to you as a student athlete because you're wearing the backpack, you're wearing the clothes, and they're paying for your school, and this like leadership, it's a big component of the sport as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually spoke with someone who was pre med. She may be in med school now. It was a little while ago, but she was oh goodness, what did she do? Water polo. She was a two-time Olympic gold medalist water polo star, and she is pre med as well. The thing that she mentioned, which is something that I hadn't thought about, you can add this to your list if someone asks you that, again, is that I guess that perseverance. It's truly, there's very few people that have to focus on one thing their entire career. You've been doing it since, what did you say, sixth grade, and working day in and day out to continue to get better. If people, when they come to their career, if they spend even half the amount of effort that they spent throughout their childhood trying meticulously to get better and better at something, then you're going to be a rock star doctor, right?
Yeah, and actually, that's kind of like going along with the word grit. That's the best word I like to use when I explain
Yeah,
college athletics. Is it teaches you grit.
for sure, for sure. Do you know? Obviously, it can change a lot of times, but do you know what kind of doctor you want to be?
I not yet, but I definitely love like sports ortho and like that route. And I think I'm gonna be shadowing the football physician over the summer, which will be kind of fun to do.
Yeah, and once you're done with your collegiate time, do you think you're just going to put sports behind you and be like, been there, done that, got the T-shirt and over it? Do you think you're going to, work in any youth development? Do you think you're still going to be involved at any stage? Obviously, if you do sports medicine, that keeps you kind of involved, but there's always two paths. People that are like, I just want to never look back at this, or people that kind of stay involved.
Actually, at the moment, I'm considering highly like pursuing other athletic opportunities. CrossFit is something that I've had a lot of CrossFit coaches come up to me and ask me if I'd want to be interested in, going for the games one year, or because I work out like in my off seasons, I do a lot of sprinting and like overall just conditioning, and CrossFit's always been something I've been really interested in. So or even Olympic lifting. I kind of put that thought to the side for a while, but for a while they really wanted me to quit medicine and train fully for Olympic lifting. And those are both still kind of on the table for me. Obviously, it all has to do with if I get into medical school, if I decide that maybe that's not the route I want to take anymore. It's just all kind of up in the air, but definitely no matter what I do, I'll still be involved in athletics somehow.
Yeah, and the good thing, I feel like if you wanted to, you could do both. I think there's obviously a shorter window when it comes to being at the Olympic level at something, but I don't think putting off medical school is. I mean, I wouldn't give up that, but I feel like putting that off, if that's something that's always going to be there. Maybe the Olympic part's not. So something to think
Yeah.
about too. Yeah. What I guess we already talked about what you hope the future holds. How can people stay connected with you? I've followed you on Instagram myself. I don't know whether I mean, you have quite a few followers. Are you at all in the quote unquote influencer area, or are you just simply have some followers that wanna see what you're up to?
I'm active on TikTok, and I've gotten my followers up a little bit there. Me and some of the other track girls, I have around 60,000 followers there. And over the summer, I definitely hope to become more almost like a fitness influencer. During the season, that can be just posting on there gets really distracting and like kind of affects how I perform. Just like knowing people at the competitions are seeing me on social media freaks me out sometimes. So I've definitely like taken a step back from TikTok right now, but that's something over the summer that I'm gonna try and get back on and really get my following up there.
I like it. So how can people follow along if they want to?
I believe my TikTok is Mo Ruby, just MOWRUBY.
I gotcha. And we'll put that in the show notes too. But I appreciate you. I really, really, like I said, there's so much different things in track and field. So, I mean, I feel like I could talk to another track and field person and it's a totally different thing because they're doing totally different things. So it's been interesting kind of learning about your niche in it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was Morgan Wrublik. Great conversation. Really appreciate her time. She's got so much going between her academics, between her athletics, and then also the social media influencing side of things. So urge you to follow along with her, whether we're following along with Illinois State and seeing how her season goes this upcoming spring and I guess a little bit of December, whether we're seeing just what she does in the social media world or what we see what she does, in the academic world and potentially becoming a doctor. She's got a lot going on, and I urge you to follow along. All of the links to follow her will be in the show notes. If this is your first time listening or you haven't already, go leave a 5-star review on Apple and on Spotify. Leave a written review on Apple. Even more amazing, follow on Instagram, Not Enough Podcast, jacksonf.com. Not Enough for Jackson F as the Facebook page. Lots of places there. Give us a follow. Give us a subscribe, depending on what podcast platform you have. That helps out a lot. But if you do nothing else, catch us next week. Take it away, Chris.
This has been Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us next time, where we will interview another amazing guest who is sure to make you laugh or make you think. Or, hey, maybe even both. But until then, keep being awesome.